Commander Veltar stared at Jake in disbelief as the human explained Zakthul's defensive plan. The Zilani's forearms gestured frantically as he processed the request to let a disabled Kethvar warrior coordinate the station's defense against the approaching pirate fleet. You want me to put the lives of 300 beings in the hands of a paralyzed warrior, who is technically dead according to his own people? Veltar asked, his skin color shifting to a pale blue that indicated extreme stress. He's the only one on this station with real military experience, Jake insisted. Look at those ships on the scanner. We're facing professional pirates with military-grade weapons. Our security chief Nixara is good at keeping peace between different species, but she's never commanded a battle. Zakthul sat in his wheelchair, beside Jake, studying the tactical displays that showed the pirate fleet's approach. The lead ship is a modified heavy cruiser, he said calmly. Scar hegemony vessels typically carry boarding pods and assault troops. They will try to disable our defenses quickly and take the station with minimal damage to preserve its value. Security Chief Nixara clicked her mandibles in what Jake had learned was a sign of uncertainty in Threnody behavior. The Kethvar speaks with knowledge, but can we trust the tactical judgment of one who has been declared dead by his own military? My death status does not affect my understanding of combat, Zakthul replied with dignity. I have fought the Scar pirates before. I know their tactics and their weaknesses. The station shook slightly as the pirate ships came within weapons range and fired warning shots. Everyone in the command center could hear the fear in the voices of crew members throughout the station as they realized the seriousness of their situation. Commander Veltar looked at the tactical display, then at Zakthul, then back at the approaching ships. What do you propose? Zakthul gestured toward the schematic of Kepler-7 that appeared on the main screen. The pirates will expect us to defend the main docking bays and the command center. Instead, we let them board at the primary locations and then trap them in kill zones using the mining equipment as weapons. Jake had spent the last hour helping Zakthul identify key positions throughout the station, where industrial lasers could be repositioned to create overlapping fields of fire. The mining equipment was powerful enough to cut through asteroid rock, which meant it could easily penetrate pirate armor and ship hulls. The key is coordination, Zakthul continued. Each defensive team must know when to fall back and when to advance. The pirates will have superior individual weapons, but we can use the station's layout to our advantage. Veltar's skin color slowly returned to its normal blue as he considered the plan. How do we coordinate teams spread throughout different levels of the station? I will direct the defense from here using the station's communication system, Zakthul explained. Jake will serve as my mobile representative, moving between positions to ensure orders are carried out correctly. A disabled commander and a human engineer, Nixara said doubtfully. This is not a conventional military structure. Nothing about our situation is conventional, Jake pointed out. We're a mining station facing a pirate fleet. We need to use every advantage we have, including the best military mind available. The communication system crackled as one of the pirate ships transmitted a surrender demand. The voice was harsh and mechanical, translated through universal communication protocols. Attention, Kepler-7. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately and you will be treated according to galactic prison conventions. Resist and we will take the station by force with no regard for civilian casualties. Commander Veltar looked around the command center at the faces of his diverse crew. Humans, Zilani, Threnody, and representatives of other species all waited for his decision. Finally, he nodded to Zakthul. Commander, you have tactical authority for the defense of this station. Zakthul straightened in his wheelchair, and Jake could see the transformation as the disabled warrior became a military officer once again. Thank you. Jake, we need to move quickly. The pirates will begin their assault in less than 10 minutes. What followed was the most intense hour of Jake's life. He raced through the station's corridors, helping teams of miners and technicians reposition industrial equipment according to Zakthul's instructions. The Kethvar warrior coordinated the entire defense from the command center, his voice calm and professional as he directed teams to their positions. The pirates attacked exactly as Zakthul had predicted. Boarding pods attached to the main docking bays, while assault shuttles attempted to land on the station's outer platforms. The initial wave of attackers found the expected resistance at the primary entrances and began advancing into the station. But they walked directly into Zakthul's trap. Mining lasers that had been repositioned in hidden alcoves opened fire on the advancing pirates from multiple angles. The industrial cutting beams were devastatingly effective against personal armor, and the attackers found themselves caught in crossfire zones with no cover. Team 3, fall back to position beta. Zakthul's voice came through Jake's communication device. Team 7, advance and secure the junction at level 4. The pirates are trying to regroup near the storage bays. Jake watched from his position near a redirected mining laser as a group of heavily armored Scar pirates tried to advance down the corridor. The aliens were large and aggressive, with thick scales and powerful weapons, but they had no answer for the industrial equipment that had been turned against them. They're retreating from Sector 2, Jake reported to Zakthul. The mining laser at Junction 7 is keeping them pinned down. Good, Zakthul replied. Now we spring the secondary trap. Redirect them toward the processing center where we have the heavy equipment waiting. The battle raged throughout the station's multiple levels. Jake found himself running between defensive positions, carrying messages, and helping coordinate the complex plan that Zakthul had devised. The disabled HFY warrior remained at the command center, watching multiple screens that showed different parts of the battle and issuing orders with the precision of an experienced military commander. The pirates began to realize they were facing a more organized defense than expected. Several of their boarding teams had been eliminated or forced to retreat. The Scar commanders started pulling back their forces and regrouping for a more concentrated assault. They're learning, Zakthul observed as he watched the tactical display. The next wave will be harder to stop. Jake looked at the status reports from around the station. Several defensive positions had been damaged and they had lost contact with 2 teams. Can we hold them off? That depends on whether they're willing to accept heavy losses for a mining station, Zakthul replied. Pirates are motivated by profit. If we make this too expensive, they may decide to look for easier targets. The second pirate assault was indeed more aggressive. The Scar commanders concentrated their remaining forces on a single breakthrough point, trying to overwhelm the defenders with superior numbers. Jake found himself helping to operate one of the mining lasers, as pirates in powered armor tried to advance down a main corridor. But Zakthul had anticipated this tactic. As the pirates concentrated their attack, he directed other teams to attack their landing craft and cut off their retreat. The pirate boarding parties found themselves trapped on the station with no way back to their ships. This is Commander Rulek of the Scar vessel Bloodfang. A new voice came over the communication system. We demand to speak with whoever is commanding your defense. Zakthul looked at Commander Veltar, who nodded permission. This is Commander Zakthul of the HFY Imperial Navy. You are attacking a civilian mining facility in violation of multiple galactic treaties. There was a long pause before the pirate commander responded. Zakthul? The same Zakthul who destroyed the pirate fleet at Zerion Prime? The same, Zakthul replied calmly. But our intelligence report said you were killed in Battle 3 weeks ago. Jake saw Zakthul smile for the first time since his rescue. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. Another pause followed, then. We withdraw our forces. This target is not worth the cost. Jake watched on the tactical display as the pirate ships began pulling back their boarding parties and moving away from the station. The defense had worked. Zakthul's reputation combined with the unexpected resistance had convinced the pirates to find easier prey. As the all-clear signal sounded throughout Kepler 7, Jake looked at Zakthul with newfound respect. The disabled HFY warrior had just saved hundreds of lives using nothing but his tactical knowledge and communication skills. You did it, Jake said with amazement. You commanded a successful defense without leaving your wheelchair. Zakthul nodded slowly, but his expression was thoughtful rather than triumphant. Perhaps you were right, human. Perhaps there are different ways to be a warrior. Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the mining laser for the 3rd time that morning. The machine hummed with a low vibration that he could feel through his boots on the metal floor of Kepler 7 mining station. Around, Aliens of different shapes and sizes worked alongside humans, all focused on extracting precious minerals from the asteroid field that surrounded their remote outpost. The station commander Veltar walked past Jake's workstation. The tall, blue-skinned Zilani moved with the typical stiff posture of his species, his forearms carrying data tablets and communication devices. Veltar never seemed to stop working, always checking reports and managing the complex operations that kept the mining station running smoothly. Jake had been working on Kepler-7 for 2 years now. The pay was good, and he enjoyed the challenge of keeping the mining equipment running in the harsh environment of space. The station was home to over 300 beings from 12 different species, all working together under the banner of the Galactic Mining Consortium. It was not always easy, but Jake had learned to respect the different customs and ways of thinking that each species brought to their shared work. The communication system crackled to life across the station. Security Chief Nixara's voice came through the speakers, her words sharp and efficient in the way of the Threnody species. All teams report to stations. We have detected debris in Sector 7, possible wreckage from recent combat activity. Jake looked up from his work. Combat debris was not uncommon in this part of the galaxy. The border region saw frequent skirmishes between various factions, and the wreckage often drifted into mining territories. Usually, salvage teams would strip anything valuable before the station's security forces cleared the area. Morrison, Chen, and Patel. Veltar's voice called out. Report to Shuttle Bay 2. You will investigate the debris field. Jake gathered his tools and headed toward the shuttle bay. He met up with Dr. Lisa Chen, the station's human medical officer, and Raj Patel, another engineer who specialized in alien technology. The 3 humans had worked together many times before, and they moved efficiently as a team. Any idea what kind of ships we're looking at? Jake asked as they climbed aboard the small survey shuttle. Long-range sensors suggest Kethvar design, Patel replied, checking his instruments. Big ship too, probably a battlecruiser class. Jake nodded. He knew about the Kethvar. Everyone in the galaxy did. They were a warrior race, tall and powerful, with honor codes that governed every aspect of their lives. Their military was respected and feared across known space. They rarely lost battles, but when they did, they fought to the death rather than retreat. The shuttle left the docking bay and moved slowly through the asteroid field toward the debris. As they got closer, Jake could see the twisted metal and broken hull plates floating in the darkness. The wreckage was massive, spread across several kilometers of space. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. There, Dr. Chen pointed to a section of hull that was still mostly intact. Life signs are faint, but they're there. Jake felt his heart rate increase. Survivors in space wreckage was rare. Most beings died quickly when their ships were destroyed. The cold vacuum of space was not forgiving. Can you tell how many? Just 1, Chen replied, studying her medical scanner. Kethvar, definitely, but the readings are strange. They maneuvered the shuttle closer to the intact section. Jake could see through a crack in the hull into what looked like a command center. Emergency lighting flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the damaged walls. He activated the shuttle's external cameras and zoomed in. Inside the wreckage, a figure was strapped into what appeared to be a command chair. Even in the dim light, Jake could see the distinctive features of a Kethvar warrior. They were tall beings, usually over 7 feet in height, with thick gray skin and powerful builds designed for combat. This one wore the elaborate armor of a high-ranking officer. He's alive, Dr. Chen confirmed. But barely. We need to get him out of there quickly. Jake maneuvered the shuttle into position. Using the magnetic clamps, he secured their vessel to the damaged hull. The 3 humans put on their environmental suits and prepared to enter the wreckage. The process was dangerous, but they had done similar rescues before. Inside the Kethvar ship, the air was thin but breathable. Emergency systems were still functioning, though just barely. Jake followed Dr. Chen toward the command center where the survivor waited. As they got closer, Jake could see more details of the warrior's condition. The Kethvar was unconscious, but his chest rose and fell, in a steady rhythm. His armor was damaged in several places, and Jake could see evidence of serious injuries. But what caught Jake's attention was something else entirely. The warrior's legs were trapped under a heavy beam that had fallen during the battle. Even from a distance, Jake could tell that the damage was severe. "Oh no," Dr. Chen whispered as she ran her medical scanner over the trapped warrior. "Jake, his spine is severed. The damage to his lower body is extensive." Jake understood immediately. A HFY warrior with damaged legs would be considered disabled by his own people. In their culture, a warrior who could not fight was not truly alive. He had heard stories about how the HFY dealt with such situations, and none of them were pleasant. Patel was examining the identification tags on the warrior's armor. "This is Commander Zakthul," he said quietly. "I recognize the name from the military databases. He's a decorated officer, responsible for several major victories against pirate fleets." Dr. Chen continued her medical examination. "He's stable for now, but he needs proper medical care soon. The paralysis appears permanent based on what I can see." Jake looked around the damaged command center. There were no other survivors. The ship's computer systems were badly damaged, but he could access some of the log files. The records showed that this had been the battlecruiser Dark Honor, engaged in combat with a superior enemy force. Commander Zakthul had fought bravely, but had been overwhelmed. "We need to get him back to the station," Jake said. "Wait," Patel replied, checking his communication device. "I'm getting a message from HFY Fleet Command. They're asking about survivors from the Dark Honor." Jake watched as Patel read the message. The engineer's face grew pale. "They say there are no survivors. According to their records, Commander Zakthul died in battle with honor. They consider this matter closed." Dr. Chen looked confused. "But he's right here. He's alive." "Not according to his own people," Jake replied grimly. He understood now. The HFY military had already decided that their wounded commander was dead. In their culture, a paralyzed warrior was worse than dead. They would not come to rescue him. "So what do we do?" Patel asked. Jake looked at the unconscious warrior. Zakthul had served with honor, had protected innocent people from pirates and criminals. Now his own people had abandoned him because of an injury that was not his fault. It was not right. "We save him," Jake said simply. "Jake, you don't understand," Patel protested. "This is HFY culture. We can't interfere with their customs. It could cause a diplomatic incident." "I don't care about diplomacy," Jake replied. "He's alive, and he deserves a chance to stay that way." Dr. Chen was already preparing her medical equipment. "I agree with Jake. My oath is to preserve life, regardless of politics." The three humans worked together to free Commander Zakthul from the wreckage. It took several hours, but they managed to extract him safely and transport him back to their shuttle. Throughout the process, Jake thought about what they were doing. He knew there would be consequences. Station Commander Veltar would not be happy. The other alien species on the station might not understand. But as Jake looked at the unconscious HFY warrior, he knew he was making the right choice. Every being deserved a chance at life, regardless of what their culture might say about disability or honor. It was a simple human principle, one that Jake was not willing to compromise on. As their shuttle headed back toward Kepler 7, Jake wondered what would happen next. Commander Zakthul would wake up in a strange place, among aliens who had defied his people's wishes to save his life. There would be difficult conversations ahead, but first they had to keep him alive. 3 weeks had passed since Jake brought Commander Zakthul to his quarters. The HFY warrior had refused to speak for the first 5 days, staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. When he finally did talk, it was only to ask Jake to let him die with whatever honor he had left. Jake spent every free moment in his quarters learning to care for his unexpected patient. Dr. Chen had taught him how to monitor Zakthul's medical needs, how to prevent infections, and how to help with physical therapy for his upper body. The work was exhausting, but Jake never complained. Slowly, Zakthul began to respond to Jake's efforts. He started asking questions about human culture and why Jake had risked so much to save him. Jake told him stories about human athletes who had overcome disabilities, about soldiers who had lost limbs and found new purposes in life, about the human belief that worth came from character, not physical ability. "Your people are strange," Zakthul said one evening as Jake helped him with his exercises. In Kethvar society, strength is everything. A warrior who cannot defend himself or others is a burden on the clan. Maybe your society is wrong about that, Jake replied, adjusting the resistance on the equipment he had built for Zakthul's arm exercises. You cannot simply declare an entire culture wrong because you disagree with it, Zakthul protested, but his tone was less angry than it had been before. I can disagree with any culture that throws away good people, Jake said firmly. You have more military knowledge in your head than most officers will learn in a lifetime. You understand tactics, strategy, leadership. Those things don't disappear because your legs don't work. Zakthul was quiet for a long moment. Even if that were true, it does not matter. I am Shandar. My people will never accept me back. Jake had been working on a solution to that problem. Using mining equipment and spare parts, he had constructed a crude wheelchair that could navigate the station's corridors. He had also started designing more advanced mobility aids, though he lacked the proper materials to build them. Maybe acceptance doesn't matter, Jake suggested. Maybe what matters is finding a new way to help people. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of alarms throughout the station. Jake recognized the pattern immediately. It was the emergency signal for hostile ships approaching the station. Jake helped Zakthul into the wheelchair and moved him to where he could see the computer screen. The station's sensors showed multiple ships approaching from the outer asteroid field. The design was unfamiliar, but the energy signatures suggested heavy weapons and military-grade shields. Pirates, Zakthul said, studying the display. Hegemony of Scar based on the ship configurations. They specialize in attacking remote mining operations. Commander Veltar's voice came over the station communication system. All personnel to emergency stations. We are being approached by hostile vessels. Prepare for possible boarding action. Jake looked at the tactical display with growing concern. The pirate fleet consisted of 8 ships, including 2 heavy cruisers. Kepler-7 had minimal defenses, designed more for asteroid mining than combat. The station's security force was small and equipped for dealing with minor disputes, not a full military assault. They will demand surrender, Zakthul explained, his military training taking over despite his disabled condition. The Scar pirates prefer to capture mining stations intact. They will take valuable equipment and personnel, then sell them on the black market. What are our chances if we fight? Jake asked. Zakthul studied the tactical display more carefully, his experienced eyes taking in details that Jake missed. Against 8 ships with heavy weapons, the station's defenses will last perhaps 20 minutes. After that, they will board and take control. Jake felt his stomach sink. There were over 300 people on Kepler-7, including families and civilian workers. The pirates would show no mercy to anyone who resisted. There has to be something we can do, Jake said desperately. Zakthul was quiet, studying the display with the intensity Jake had seen when he worked on difficult engineering problems. Perhaps, he said slowly. The mining equipment on this station includes industrial lasers designed to cut through asteroids. With modifications, they could be used as weapons. You think we could fight them? Not fight them directly, Zakthul replied, but we could make the cost of taking the station higher than they expect. Pirates are motivated by profit. If we can convince them that capturing Kepler-7 will be too expensive, they might look for easier targets. Jake felt a spark of hope. What would we need to do? Zakthul began explaining his tactical assessment. The mining station was built into a large asteroid, with multiple levels connected by corridors and maintenance shafts. The pirates would expect to dock at the main bays and secure the station level by level. But if the defenders could coordinate their efforts and use the station's industrial equipment creatively, they might be able to make the pirates pay dearly for every corridor. The key is coordination, Zakthul explained. Each defensive position must support the others. The pirates will have superior weapons and training, but they will not know the station's layout as well as we do. Jake listened carefully as Zakthul outlined a defensive strategy that used the station's unique features to maximum advantage. Mining lasers could be repositioned to create crossfire zones. Maintenance shafts could be used for flanking maneuvers. Industrial equipment could be sabotaged to create obstacles for the attackers. This could actually work, Jake said with growing excitement. But someone would need to coordinate all the defensive positions, someone with military experience who understands tactics. Zakthul understood the implication immediately. I cannot lead a defense while confined to this chair. A commander must be mobile, must be able to move between positions, must be able to fight alongside his troops. Why? Jake asked. You can communicate with every part of the station from here. You can see the tactical situation better from a central location than running around in corridors, and your brain works just fine. It is not proper, Zakthul protested. A HFY warrior leads from the front, not from behind a desk. Maybe it's time to try a new way of leading, Jake suggested. Maybe being a good commander isn't about being the strongest fighter. Maybe it's about being the smartest tactician. The alarms continued to sound throughout the station. Jake could hear the fear in the voices of other crew members as they prepared for the approaching attack. Time was running out, and Zakthul was the only one with the military expertise needed to organize an effective defense. If I do this, Zakthul said slowly, I will be commanding while disabled. It goes against everything I was taught about honor and leadership. Honor isn't about following old rules, Jake replied. Honor is about protecting people who can't protect themselves. Right now, everyone on this station needs your help. That includes humans, Zilani, Threnody, and 10 other species. Are you going to let them suffer because you're worried about what other HFY might think? Zakthul stared at the tactical display, watching as the pirate ships grew closer. His face showed the internal struggle between a lifetime of cultural conditioning and the immediate need to act. Very well, he said finally, but I will need your help. I cannot move around the station to inspect positions or rally troops. You will be my legs and my voice in places where I cannot go. Jake grinned with relief and determination. Just tell me what to do. Zakthul straightened in his wheelchair, and for the first time since his rescue, Jake saw the proud warrior that he had once been. First, we contact Commander Veltar and convince him to let a disabled HFY save his station. Then we turn this mining operation into a fortress. Commander Veltar stood in the shuttle bay with his forearms crossed, watching as Jake and his team brought the unconscious HFY warrior aboard the station. The blue-skinned Zilani's face showed clear disapproval, his large eyes narrowing, as he saw the medical equipment that Dr. Chen had attached to their unexpected patient. Morrison, what is the meaning of this? Veltar demanded, as the medical team moved the warrior onto a transport bed. You were sent to investigate debris, not to collect survivors. Jake wiped his hands on a clean cloth and faced the station commander. We found him alive in the wreckage. We couldn't just leave him there to die. According to HFY Fleet Command, there are no survivors from that battle, Veltar replied coldly. Commander Zakthul is officially listed as killed in action. His people consider this matter closed. Security Chief Nixara approached the group, her 6 legs moving in the precise pattern typical of the Threnody species. Her compound eyes studied the unconscious warrior with obvious concern. This warrior has been declared Shendar by his own people, she said. In HFY culture, that means he is honorably dead. We have no right to interfere with their customs. Dr. Chen looked up from her medical scanner, anger clear in her voice. He's not dead. His vital signs are stable. With proper care, he could make a full recovery from his injuries. Recovery from what injuries? Veltar asked. His spine is severed, Dr. Chen explained. He's paralyzed from the waist down, but everything else is functioning normally. With the right medical treatment and equipment, he could live a full life. Nixara made a clicking sound that Jake had learned meant disapproval in Threnody culture. You do not understand. A HFY warrior who cannot walk cannot fight. A warrior who cannot fight has no honor. In their society, such a being is considered worse than dead. Jake felt his anger rising. That's ridiculous. He's still the same person. His mind is intact, his experience and knowledge are still there. Just because his legs don't work doesn't mean he's worthless. To his people it does, Veltar said firmly. Morrison, you have created a diplomatic problem. The HFY Empire expects their dead to remain dead. If they discover we are keeping one of their dishonored warriors alive, It could damage our relationship with them. I don't care about politics, Jake replied. This is about doing what's right. Veltar's skin color shifted slightly, a sign of stress in Zilani physiology. You will care about politics when the Empire cuts off our trade agreements. This station depends on good relationships with all the major powers. We cannot afford to anger the Kethvar over one disabled warrior. Dr. Chen stood up, her face determined. I'm taking him to the medical bay. As Chief Medical Officer, I have the authority to treat any patient brought to this station. You do not have the authority to create an interstellar incident, Veltar countered. The warrior stays in quarantine until we decide what to do with him. Jake stepped forward. Then I'll take care of him myself, in my quarters, as a private citizen, not as a station employee. Morrison, that is not advisable, Nixara warned. The other species on this station will not understand your actions. Many of them have cultural practices regarding disabled individuals that are similar to the Kethvar. You could face serious social consequences. Let me worry about that, Jake said. He turned to Dr. Chen. Can you help me set up a medical area in my quarters? Dr. Chen nodded. I can provide basic medical equipment and show you how to monitor his condition. But Jake, this is going to be difficult. Kethvar physiology is different from human. If he wakes up and realizes what you've done, he might not be grateful. Jake watched as the medical team continued to work on the unconscious warrior. Commander Zakthul was tall even lying down, his gray skin marked with old battle scars that spoke of a lifetime of combat. His armor bore the symbols of high rank and multiple decorations for bravery. This was a being who had dedicated his life to protecting others, and now his own people had abandoned him. I understand the risks, Jake said. But I can't just let him die because his culture says he's worthless now. Over the next several hours, Jake worked with Dr. Chen to convert part of his living quarters into a makeshift medical facility. They moved medical monitors, life support equipment, and supplies from the station's medical bay. Jake had to use his engineering skills to modify the equipment to work in his smaller space. News of Jake's actions spread quickly through the station. Other human crew members were divided in their opinions. Some supported his decision to save a life, while others worried about the potential consequences. The alien crew members were almost universally disapproving. Jake encountered Thexani, a Dralan engineer, in the corridor outside his quarters. The purple-skinned alien's tentacles moved in agitated patterns as he spoke. Your behavior is disturbing, human. You interfere with natural order. Disabled beings should be allowed to die with dignity. There's nothing dignified about abandoning someone because they're injured, Jake replied. You apply human values to non-human situations, Thexani said. This will cause problems for all of us. Similar conversations happened throughout the day. Jake realized that many of the alien species on the station had cultural attitudes toward disability that were similar to the Kethvar. The idea of keeping a disabled warrior alive was foreign and disturbing to them, but Jake refused to change his mind. He spent the evening learning about Kethvar physiology from the station's database. He read about their culture, their history, and their complex honor codes. The more he learned, the more he understood why they had abandoned Commander Zakthul, but he also became more convinced that their customs were wrong. Late that night, as Jake sat beside the unconscious warrior's bed, monitoring his vital signs, he heard a soft groan. Commander Zakthul was waking up. The Kethvar's eyes opened slowly, confusion clear on his face. He tried to sit up but found himself restrained by medical equipment. His gaze moved around the unfamiliar room before settling on Jake. Where am I? Zakthul asked in accented but clear Standard Galactic. His voice was deep and rough from his injuries. You're safe, Jake replied. You're on Kepler 7 mining station. We found you in the wreckage of your ship. Zakthul's eyes widened as memory returned. The Dark Honor. My crew. Are they? Jake shook his head sadly. You were the only survivor. The warrior closed his eyes, pain crossing his features that had nothing to do with his physical injuries. Then I have failed them completely, You didn't fail anyone, Jake said. You fought bravely. The battle records show you held off a superior force for hours before your ship was destroyed. It does not matter, Zack-Thul replied bitterly. He tried to move his legs and realized he could not feel them. His face went pale as understanding dawned. My legs. I cannot move my legs. Your spine was damaged in the battle, Jake explained gently. But with time and proper care, you can learn to adapt. There are technologies that can help. Zack-Thul stared at Jake with a mixture of horror and disgust. You saved me. You brought me back from an honorable death to live as a cripple. I brought you back to live, Jake corrected. What you do with that life is up to you. The warrior turned his face away. You do not understand. A Kethvar who cannot walk cannot fight. A warrior who cannot fight has no purpose, no honor, no worth. You have condemned me to a fate worse than death. Jake leaned forward in his chair. In human culture, we believe that every person has value regardless of their physical abilities. We've had warriors who lost limbs and went on to become teachers, leaders, and heroes in different ways. I am not human, Zack-Thul said coldly. My people will have declared me Shendar by now. I am dead to them, dead to my family, dead to my clan. You have rescued a ghost. You're not dead to me, Jake replied firmly, and I'm going to prove to you that your life still has meaning. Zack-Thul looked back at Jake with eyes full of anger and despair. Then you are a fool, human, and you have made us both outcast for nothing. Jake sat back in his chair and watched the proud warrior struggle with his new reality. He knew this was only the beginning of a very difficult journey, but he was determined to help Zack-Thul find a new purpose in life. The human belief that every individual had worth was not negotiable, regardless of what the galaxy's cultures might say about disability and honor. Word of the successful defense of Kepler-7 spread quickly through the galactic communication networks. News that a disabled Kethvar warrior had coordinated the defeat of a Scar pirate fleet reached the Kethvar Empire within days. For the first time in their military history, they faced a situation their honor codes had not anticipated. Jake noticed the change in how other species on the station treated Zack-Thul immediately after the battle. Aliens, who had previously avoided the disabled warrior, now approached him with respect. Even Thexani, the Drallan engineer who had criticized Jake's rescue, came to offer his gratitude for saving the station. Your tactical knowledge preserved many lives, Thexani said to Zack-Thul. His tentacles moving in patterns that Jake had learned indicated deep respect. Perhaps my people's customs regarding disabled individuals deserve reconsideration. Commander Veltar was equally transformed in his attitude. The Zilani station commander visited Jake's quarters daily to consult with Zack-Thul about improving the station's defenses. The Galactic Mining Consortium will want a full report on your defensive strategies, he told the Kethvar warrior. Other mining stations need to know how to protect themselves against pirate attacks. But Jake could see that Zack-Thul was struggling with the praise and attention. The Kethvar warrior had spent his entire adult life following strict military traditions that defined worth through physical capability. The idea that his mind alone could make him valuable was difficult for him to accept. I commanded the defense from a chair, Zack-Thul said to Jake one evening as they worked on improving his mobility equipment. In Kethvar tradition, a true warrior leads his troops into battle personally. What I did was not real leadership. Tell that to the 300 people who are alive because of your tactics, Jake replied, adjusting the motor controls on the advanced wheelchair he had been building. Leadership isn't about being the strongest person in the room. It's about making the right decisions and getting others to follow them. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement from Commander Veltar over the station's communication system. Commander Zack-Thul, please report to Docking Bay 1. You have visitors from the Kethvar Empire. Jake felt his stomach tighten with worry. He had known this moment would come eventually, but he had hoped they would have more time to prepare. Zack-Thul's expression was unreadable as he transferred to his wheelchair and prepared to meet with representatives of his own people. In Docking Bay 1, they found an impressive sight. A HFY diplomatic vessel had arrived, sleek and powerful, bearing the symbols of the Imperial High Command. Standing beside the ship was Elder War Commander Tok'Miran, one of the most respected military leaders in the HFY Empire. Tok'Miran was an imposing figure even by HFY standards, tall and broad with armor that displayed decades of military service. His gray skin bore the ritual scars that marked him as a veteran of countless battles. When he saw Zakthul in the wheelchair, his expression showed obvious discomfort. "Commander Zakthul," Tok'Miran said formally, "I have come to investigate reports that you are alive despite being declared Shendar by Imperial Command." "The reports are accurate," Zakthul replied with equal formality. "I was rescued from the wreckage of the Dark Honor by human personnel from this station." Tok'Miran's gaze moved to Jake, studying the human with curiosity. "You are the one who interfered with our customs?" "I'm the one who saved a life," Jake replied simply. "In human culture, that's considered the right thing to do regardless of customs. Human customs are not relevant here," Tok'Miran said coldly. "A HFY warrior who cannot walk cannot fulfill his duties. The decision to declare Commander Zakthul dead was made according to ancient law." Commander Veltar stepped forward. "Elder War Commander, with respect, Commander Zakthul just coordinated the successful defense of this station against a superior enemy force. His tactical knowledge and leadership saved hundreds of lives." Tok'Miran looked surprised. "You allowed a disabled warrior to command your defense?" "We allowed the most qualified military officer available to command our defense," Veltar corrected. The fact that he uses a wheelchair did not diminish his effectiveness as a tactical commander. Jake watched as Tok'Miran struggled with this information. The elder warrior had clearly expected to find a broken and dishonored soldier, not someone who had recently achieved a significant military victory. "Show me what happened," Tok'Miran demanded. For the next hour, Zakthul walked the elder warrior through the defensive battle, using holographic displays to show how he had coordinated the station's improvised defenses. Jake could see Tok'Miran becoming more impressed as he realized the complexity and effectiveness of the tactics that had been employed. "The mining equipment conversion was ingenious," Tok'Miran admitted, "and the coordination of multiple defensive positions shows masterful understanding of combined operations." Commander Zakthul achieved all of this while remaining in the command center, Commander Veltar added. His mobility limitations did not prevent him from being an outstanding military leader. Tok'Miran was quiet for a long time, studying the tactical displays and considering what he had learned. Finally, he turned to Zakthul with a serious expression. "Your actions present the Empire with a difficult situation," he said. "Our laws clearly state that a warrior who cannot walk cannot serve. But your recent victory proves that your military value remains significant." "I understand the conflict this creates," Zakthul replied. "I do not expect the Empire to change its traditions for one disabled warrior." "Perhaps the traditions need to change," Tok'Miran said slowly. "The galaxy is evolving, and military tactics are becoming more complex. A commander who can coordinate fleet movements from a central location may be more valuable than one who leads individual charges." Jake felt a surge of hope. The elder warrior was considering possibilities that went against centuries of HFY tradition. "I propose a new position," Tok'Miran continued, "strategic advisor to the Imperial fleet. You would be responsible for developing defensive tactics and training other commanders in advanced strategic thinking. Your physical limitations would be irrelevant to these duties." Zakthul stared at you, the elder warrior, in amazement. "You would create a new rank for a disabled soldier?" "I would create a new rank for a proven strategic genius," Tok'Miran corrected. "Your condition is secondary to your capabilities." Jake watched as years of cultural conditioning warred with hope in Zakthul's expression. The offer represented everything the disabled warrior had thought he could never have again: purpose, respect, and a way to serve his people. "There is one condition," Zakthul said finally. "I want to establish a joint medical and rehabilitation center here on Kepler 7. Humans have technologies and approaches to disability that could help others like me. If I accept your offer, I want to spend part of my time helping disabled individuals From all species learn to adapt and find new purposes. Tuckmiran looked at Jake with new understanding. The human approach to disability rehabilitation. It works, Jake said simply. Every individual has value. Sometimes they just need help, finding new ways to express that value. The elder warrior nodded slowly. Very well. The Empire will support this facility as part of your new duties. Over the following months, Jake watched as Zakthul transformed from a broken warrior who wanted to die into a leader who inspired others throughout the galaxy. The rehabilitation center they established became a model for treating disabled individuals from dozens of species. Veterans who had been discarded by their societies came to Kepler-7 to learn new skills and find new purposes. Jake's engineering expertise combined with Zakthul's understanding of warrior culture created programs that helped disabled beings rediscover their worth and dignity. The center's success spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had traditionally abandoned their disabled members began to reconsider their customs. The human belief that every individual had value regardless of physical limitations slowly began to influence galactic culture. Jake often found himself working late into the night alongside Zakthul, developing new adaptive technologies and treatment programs. The Kethvar warrior had become more than a patient or a friend. He had become a partner in changing how the galaxy thought about disability and worth. You saved more than my life, Zakthul told Jake one evening, as they watched a group of disabled veterans from various species working together on an engineering project. You saved my purpose. Jake smiled as he watched a former Zilani pilot who had lost 2 arms working alongside a Threnodi soldier who had been blinded in combat. Both had been discarded by their societies, but both had found new meaning through the programs they had developed. Everyone deserves a chance to find their purpose, Jake replied. Sometimes people just need someone to believe in them until they can believe in themselves again. The galaxy had left a paralyzed warrior to die, but a human had chosen to save him. That choice had changed not just 2 lives, but the way countless beings throughout known space thought about disability, worth, and what it truly meant to be strong.